Midweek Recap. Hope your week is going well. Hope since Sunday you've been processing a little bit of what we talked about, and I hope the Lord has continued to speak on those family dynamics that we talked about from Sunday. Again, if you haven't watched Sunday's sermon, I strongly encourage you to pause this video, go back and watch Sunday's sermon, because what we talk about here won't make a whole lot of sense because we're basically recapping what we talked about Sunday. So Sunday we continued in our Colossians study. We finished out Colossians Chapter 3. I know some of you thought we'd never get to the end of that, but we did. We got through the entirety of Chapter 3, and then, talking just the first verse of Chapter 4. And it's some great encouragement, great information for us in regards to the family dynamics. A lot of what Paul is hitting there in the Chapter 3, at the end of Chapter 3 there, is the relationship between husband and wife. I think that one is something we've probably all heard. We're probably all familiar with those dynamics, that husbands are to love their wives, wives are to respect their husbands. I think for me, one of the things I've noticed is just I would say the misuse of that. We talked a little bit about that on Sunday, how some husbands, unfortunately, will use that to say, well, the Bible gives me authority. It doesn't give anybody authority. It simply acknowledges the dynamic that's there. As pastor of this church, I don't see myself as in charge of everybody. I see myself as the servant of everybody. It's my job to serve this church, to take into consideration every person, every personality, every desire, where God is taking us, and to serve us by leading in that direction. And so that's the difference of leadership that Jesus teaches us. It's not about control. It's not about getting the final say and lording the authority around. If I ever have to, in a conversation, say, well, I'm the pastor, so I've already failed, because it's the title of pastor, the office of pastor, is not a club to use on people in order to get their subservience. And the same goes for a husband. As a husband, if I have to assert my authority and say, well, I'm the husband, so you have to listen to me, I've already lost. I've already failed, because it's not my job to use that title as a club in order to get my way. I, as a husband, seek to serve my wife and my family by making the right decisions. And in our family, just the way that God's gifted us, my wife likes to lean into my ability to make decisions, because it comes easier to me to make decisions. But in some family dynamics, it doesn't. Some of you are in marriages where the wife is the decision maker. That's not unbiblical in order for that to be the dynamic. Just because the wife is the one that likes to make decisions, and maybe she has the personality that is able to make that final call and likes to make that jump, and the husband's just not so much, whether it's that he just doesn't have as many preferences or that he just doesn't like to make that final call, that's okay. It's not unbiblical. It's not like the weakness of man that the husband doesn't make the final decisions. It's not an authority thing, especially if you're working together. If marriage is teamwork, like we looked at in Ephesians, it's mutual submission one to another. And if the husband learns how to love his wife and the wife learns how to respect her husband, then it doesn't matter who makes the final decisions. It doesn't matter who makes the final call on things and gets that final say. That based on personality and the dynamics in a marriage. Some of you probably have marriages where the husband makes the final call on some things and the wife on other things, and that's totally okay. Figure out your dynamics. Don't think that this portion of Scripture gives one person the final say or like some level of authority that's not there. That's not what it's talking about. So I just want to cover that. We didn't dive too much into that on Sunday, but I do want to make that comment very clear that what Paul talks about at the end of Colossians there, about husbands loving the wife and the wife respecting the husband. Wives, you can respect your husband and be the decision maker. That's totally okay. Husbands, you can love your wife and be the decision maker, or not be the decision maker. It's loving your spouse and respecting your spouse should go both ways, and is not authority level dynamics. So So in our marriage, most of the time in most things, I do make the final decisions on things. But again, that's personality wise. That's because that's the way that God has wired Jackie and I. And that's not the case for some of you. I know some of you. I've done pre-marriage counseling and marriage counseling with some of you, and I know that's not your dynamic. And I know that at times you might feel a tension there because of the wrong ideas of people that people have regarding the Bible, regarding Scripture, and what it calls us to do. In that culture, you have to also understand, in the culture that Paul's writing this, women had less rights than, I mean, I don't even know what to liken it to. Women had very, very few rights. They did not have the rights that women have today. The dynamics were very, very different. And so you have to also understand how controversial this would be, even in that dynamic, that culture, that the husbands sometimes would view their wives even as property. I mean, almost as servants is kind of the way that many husbands viewed their wives. And so for Paul to come out and say, husbands, you need to love your wife. You need to communicate love in everything that you do. Even that, unfortunately, would have been controversial for some people. So he really was shaking the dynamics up. But again, he wasn't saying, husbands, love your wives and you get to lead and you get to make all the decisions. And again, as the senior pastor of a church, I don't want to make all the decisions. My goal is to create systems and to create and to hand off leadership to the leaders of particular ministries. And we have our board of ministries. I lean into them. I don't want to. Many times I will weigh in last on a decision because I don't want people to simply follow what I say or to just do what I say to do. I do the same thing in my marriage a lot of times. I know because Jackie is, she's so willing to go with the flow that if I communicate my opinion first, many times she'll just say, yeah, okay, we'll do that. Even if she's not really crazy about it. And then I miss out on getting to hear her opinion, getting to hear her perspective. And so I generally ask her to share first. And in our boards and stuff, that's my goal. I don't want to ever create a dynamic in our church where I make the decisions and everybody just follows suit. That's not what I want for our church. It's not what I want for our marriage. It's not healthy, in my opinion. And so my goal since day one has been, how do we hand off leadership to people? How do we cut out the red tape in a lot of our systems that force decisions higher to the top, and how do we force decisions in our church structure back to leaders of ministries and things like that. If we elect people to a ministry, in my opinion, then they should be the ones making the decisions. We should back them up and seek to support them as boards, not seek to control them. And so I think we've gotten the dynamics wrong a lot of times. When we hear the word leader, sometimes we can think, oh, they're the ones that get to make all the decisions. And I really want us to change the way we view that. To be the leader of a household, the leader of a ministry, the leader of a church means that we serve. We are the ultimate servant of the people that we lead. That is to be our goal. It should be. Jesus showed us that. He was a humble leader. He washed the feet of the disciples. He served them time after time after time. He served the people by feeding them, healing them, all the things that he did. He showed us what humble leadership looks like. And whether it's in a family dynamic or in a church setting, we should understand that leadership requires a higher level of humility and a higher level of servanthood than just the average person. So wanted to get that out there and talk about that. We also talked about some of the other dynamics that were in existence with masters and slaves, and whether your translation translates that as servant or slave, depending on who you talk to. Many people view slavery in that time more honestly as the employer-employee relationship that we have today. And because the employee doesn't own the business, they don't have any actual stake in the business. They just work for and are paid by the master or the boss. And so in a lot of ways, those dynamics are very similar, but there also was traditional slavery. So those things did exist. And what I like about what Paul has to encourage us there is the integrity side of things, that whether we're working for a master, an employer, whether we're self-employed, whatever we do should be done as if we're serving Jesus. If we lived our lives in a way that everything we did, we viewed it as service to Jesus, and if at every evening when we laid our head down on our pillows and we were going to sleep, to just be able to say, Lord, I gave you everything I had. I gave you my best. Not my best considering all the circumstances, but literally just, Lord, I gave you my best. I gave you everything I had today, and I sought to honor you and glorify you with the way that I worked, the way that I spoke, the way that I acted, with my time management skills, with everything I did. It was for you, Jesus. So if we lived that way, man, how different life could be for us, and the witness we would have. As we get into chapter 4, Paul's going to be talking a lot about prayer and our witness before the unbelieving world, and that's what we're going to cover Sunday. So I hope you can join us. I hope you'll be with us on this Sunday, whether hopefully in person, but I know we have a lot of vacations happen. We got a lot of things going on. So some of you I know will be streaming instead of in person, but I strongly encourage you. I know it's summer, but if you can make it in person, please do so. There's just something to being able to gather in person, to the community of believers coming together physically on a Sunday. To me, it's so encouraging. So I strongly encourage you, fight the urge to sit on your couch and stream. If you don't have to, then join us in person, okay? But for the rest of you, feel free, again, obviously, to join us online. You can always catch us on Facebook, YouTube, the website. I know, actually, I forgot to mention it. For some of you, any of you that have Android, trying to live stream through the app, it's been broken for a while. I've been working with the company trying to get it fixed. It's a bug that they are aware of, and they're trying to fix it, trying to work on that. But you probably won't be able to live stream straight from the app. You're going to have to jump on either YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and then you'll get the notifications. Like immediately when we go live, you'll get a notification, and then you can just click that, and it'll bring it right up on your phone, laptop, whatever it is, and go live that way. You can do the same thing with Facebook. If you follow our page, and you can subscribe to that and get notifications when we go live. That way you can catch those things. But calendar wise, I don't think we have anything crazy going on, anything of note there. If you are interested in helping us with VBS, please let us know. We need some of those registration forms, and we need that information soon. And other than that, yeah, I don't see anything on the calendar of note in this next week or so. So, yeah, have a great weekend. Enjoy your time with the Lord, and enjoy, continue to wrestle with what it would look like with these family dynamics. Ask yourself some serious questions of, is this how I live? Is this how I operate in my life? And if not, make some changes and ask the Lord to draw you closer in those ways. And then this Sunday, we will, carefully I will say this, we will most likely get through chapter 4. And then the following week, we get to hear from our international workers. Ben and Chelsea will be with us, so I encourage you to join us there on the 17th for that. Don't forget, there is a picnic immediately following the service on the 17th. With our international workers, so I hope you can join us for that. Have a great week, and God bless you, and we'll see you on Sunday.